The Audi Q5 feels like it's been around for a while, and in fact this generation launched in 2016, so it is showing its age a little bit. There haven't been any major facelifts over that time, apart from the addition of the Sportback version, which I think looks a little bit weird. I'm not going to be covering the Sportback coupe style model in this review. It's all about the SUV, and I'm going to tell you why it's still worth considering if you're looking for a luxury SUV, and some things that maybe do show its age a little bit. So please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and let's get to it. There are some good options available in this Q5 range, including the entry-level version, which is very, very affordable compared to rival SUVs in this segment. It's called the 35 TDI, and it's a front-wheel drive turbo diesel model, very, very fuel efficient. I'll tell you about that shortly, but also well equipped. You get things like LED lighting all around the car, 19-inch alloy wheels, and you get leather trim on the inside, a 10.1-inch touchscreen media system, the Audi virtual cockpit display, keyless entry, push-button start, sat-nav, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. So that entry-level version does stack up pretty well for the money that is being asked. But if you want or need all-wheel drive, then you'll need to step up to the 40 TDI or the 45 TFSI. They are both essentially the same spec level, but there is a slight difference in terms of the price. Obviously the TDI is the diesel, the TFSI is the petrol version. It's this one here. You do get some extra stuff, including sport in the name for both of those variants. And that means they get some sporty extras like 20-inch alloy wheels, as well as stuff like a panoramic sunroof, 10-speaker sound system, memory settings for the driver's seats, heated front seats, a few other trinkets on the inside, and a surround view camera system as well. And if you want or need a plug-in hybrid version of your Q5, there is one of those available. It's called the 55 TFSI-E. And it is a bit of a mouthful, but it does cost like $17,000 more in order to give you some EV driving range and theoretically reduce your fuel consumption to a mind-blowing level. I'll touch on that a little bit later on, but there are some rivals with plug-in hybrid, or other powertrain technology that we need to talk about. Let's do that now. Righto, so if you're looking for a German luxury SUV, then you've probably already considered the Mercedes GLC, although the price for that new generation model is way, way, way higher than the Q5 starting point. It starts at more than 100 grand, so that could rule it out for you. But if you are able to spend that much and you are looking for a luxury German SUV, it's a very good one. It stacks up nicely in terms of the drive experience, and it feels way more modern on the inside than the Audi does, and also it's got that screen nirvana in there as well. Now I reckon it could be a good choice for you if you are looking for a luxury German SUV, but what if you're considering something that isn't German? Well, you could look at the Genesis GV70. I think that is a fantastic luxury SUV. It's a little bit more compact feeling, but it does have a bunch of different powertrains available, and it's very sporty to drive. I think it looks brilliant as well. And finally, I reckon you should check out the Lexus NX. Now, there's a bunch of different versions of it available as well. Petrol, hybrid, and even a plug-in hybrid as well. So it does seem to offer a lot of powertrain tech choices for you. It's also really good to drive, sumptuous on the inside, and very, very enjoyable. Nicely priced too. So which would you pick? Any of those? Would you choose a BMW X3? It's also really bloody good as well. Let me know. The Audi Q5 is not a small SUV, it is a medium SUV, and in fact it's a pretty big medium SUV. It's almost 4.7 meters nose to tail, and look, I wouldn't choose it in black, but plenty of people do. I think it looks pretty smart. The big wheels on this Sport 45 TFSI Quattro model help it stand out a little bit, but I think it still looks sharp after, what, nearly 8 years on sale. Now let's check out the boot space and see what it's like. Yes, it is a decent sized boot. You'll see the number on your screen now in terms of the litres of cargo capacity you've got to play with, and there's some clever features in the back as well. You've got LED light strips on both sides of the boot. You've got a couple of shopping bag hooks, sections for you to store your shopping if you need to, like your milk bottles so they don't fall out. You've also got this cargo net section as well. So if you've got suitcases and stuff and you don't want them rolling around, then you can put them under there. Also got another section on the side here with a medical kit or first aid kit, an elasticated strap there. That's actually more handy than you might realize. And under the boot floor, there's a space saver spare wheel. So that's nice to see. So I reckon that it stacks up pretty well in terms of the space allocation in the boot and the usability of it. So let's check out the interior and see if it's luxurious enough. I was thinking about this the other day. How would I describe the interior of a modern day Audi? And the words that came to mind are technical elegance. It's still a very, let's say, safe design in terms of the interior finishes and also the way that it's put together, but it is elegant. It does have a level of luxury that you can't get in a mainstream brand, and some really nice finishes on the inside as well. Being the Quattro version of the Q5, this one gets a little Quattro badge on the dashboard with this beautiful finish across the dash as well. Some chrome elements, which I don't necessarily love, and some piano black, which I'm also not a massive fan of, but there are leather lined elements for your gear selector knob. You're also getting a leather lined steering wheel as well with very logical controls. And I love the fact that this is one of the old school steering wheels, so it's still got buttons and dials and stuff to make adjustments rather than haptic controls like some newer SUVs and luxury cars have. Now, when it comes to storage, things aren't necessarily perfect, but they are decent. So you get this little tray section here, which is probably only good for a pen because your phone won't even sit upright in there. There's another storage section in front of this other small storage section. All of that seems a bit of a waste of space until you realize that there's another section back here with a sliding wireless phone charger. So you can put your phone there and slide it back out of the way so it's out of sight, out of mind. And then you've got cup holders down there as well. And this center console bin has an adjustable armrest, so you can slide it forwards and back and whatever height you want. And there's extra storage behind there as well. So I think that those elements are pretty good. You got bottle holders in the doors as well. So yep, storage, not too bad, I would say. And like I said, this spec gets some nice inclusions. You get this big panoramic glass roof. You've also got these lovely leather seats with heating as well. No cooling in this generation of Audi Q5, which is a little bit disappointing. But I do love the fact that you still get manual controls for actual interaction with your air conditioning. So you've got dials, you've got physical buttons as well, and they've got a beautiful tactility to them as well. So I think that they are really, really nice. And you've also got some other great features down below there. You've got your semi-autonomous parking button, so you don't have to dive through a screen to do that if you want to do that. Drive selector modes down there too, and a button to turn off the screen if you want it off. Now, speaking of the screen, it's a touch screen and there is no MMI controller like you used to get in the Q5, but instead it's all through the screen here. It's like if you've seen an Audi Q8 or any of the newer generation Audi models. It gets this very intuitive menu system, which I actually really find to be quite nice, and the way that it's all laid out is very, very smart. You've got navigation if you want to use built-in sat nav. I hardly ever do. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well, and you can adjust things very quickly on the fly too. So I like the screen. I think it's a nice touch and a better thing than one of those other Audis where you have to use the dial to interact with everything. And then there's also the digital instrument cluster for the driver too, the virtual cockpit, which, yeah, is very, very cool. It's got a lot of info available to you and it's easy to manage. You do that through the buttons on the steering wheel as well. So look, feels like a technically elegant German luxury SUV inside, right? All right, let's check out the back seat and see if it's roomy enough. So, backseat space in the Audi Q5. Well, for someone my size, 182 centimeters or 6 foot, with this seat set for my driving position, I've got enough room. I've got a little bit of knee room, fair bit of foot room, a decent amount of headroom, although it does eat into space, this big glass roof in the back. But I think that for 2 adults in the back, it's going to be perfectly comfortable. If you try and fit more, you will notice that this transmission tunnel does intrude into the space quite a bit, which is not ideal. It eats into a lot of your foot space. But on top of that, you've also got a couple of really nice features down here. So you've got directional air vents in the back, you've got climate control for this zone as well, plus you've got USB charge ports there and a 12 volt as well, and a couple of map pockets. They're those mesh ones, so they're not the best for storing things that might be smaller, but you do have these plastic kick panels on the backs of the seats, which are great for stopping your little one from damaging the back of the seat when they decide that they want to have a dance party while they're strapped in. Now, speaking of little ones, you've got ISOFIX points on the window seats, 3 top tether points as well. So it's going to be amenable to you and your family. And if you are wondering about other storage solutions, you've got a flip down armrest here with a pair of very neat pop-up cup holders there. I like that. This one also folds down to be a ski port. So if you are heading to the snow, if you're just loading in longer items, then you can fit them in. Just keep in mind, they can go flying through to the front. You don't want to smash that lovely screen or your windscreen for that matter. So look, for the most part, I think that it stacks up pretty well as a family SUV. Spacious, comfortable, luxurious, and yeah, pretty nice. As I mentioned in the pricing section, there are a few different powertrain options available in the Audi Q5 range. Strangely though, this car does prioritize diesel over petrol, and that is at odds with the segment essentially. So the entry-level version, the 35 TDI, is the base engine. It has a 2-litre turbo diesel with a 7-speed dual clutch, and it's also front wheel drive only. The power and torque outputs are pretty decent, but not necessarily mind-blowing. If you need more power and torque and you want all-wheel drive, step up to the 40 TDI and you'll get it. That's the Quattro version, so it gets all-wheel drive, more power, more torque, still with a 2-litre turbo diesel engine and a 7-speed dual clutch. Then there's this one here, the 45 TFSI Quattro. Again, Quattro all-wheel drive, but a 2-litre petrol engine, turbocharged. The power and torque figures you'll see on your screen, they're pretty zesty, and it's a pretty enthusiastic engine, this one. It's the only pure petrol engine available in the lineup. And if you want the plug-in hybrid, like I mentioned, there is one available, the Q5 55 TFSI E. It adds a battery pack, electric motor, and it's also got a plug, so you can plug in to recharge overnight if you wish. Then there's that SQ5. Again, it's an absolute stonker of an engine, and I think that if you are an enthusiast, it's the one to pick. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive into the plug-in hybrid powertrain, nor the SQ5 performance model, but if you've got any questions, hit me up in the comments and I'll get back to you. Firstly, I'm going to specifically be talking about the 45 TFSI Quattro powertrain, the 2-litre petrol, and look, it's good. It's punchy. It's got enough urgency to easily get you along the road with a full load of people and stuff, and it's zesty, like it gets along well. And I'm just in the normal drive mode. There are a bunch of different drive modes if you want, including dynamic, which will make things even more assertive in terms of the behavior of the car. But I think that for the vast majority of people, this is a very, very suitable powertrain. But like I mentioned, diesel is one of the big priorities for the Q5 range, and there is a couple of great diesels, like I've said already, and I personally would choose a diesel because I think that they have more effortlessness, they have more torque in reserve, so you do have that easygoing nature. This car, you have to rev the engine a little bit more. But one thing I really like about it is that the dual clutch automatic transmission is very well sorted. It's a 7-speed across the range, and it's also got a nice way of behaving at speed. It'll adjust things very quickly before you've even noticed it's shifted up. And at lower speeds, thankfully, it's not that hesitant like some of the earlier examples of the Q5 and the dual clutch automatic transmissions in the past were. So part of that comes down to the fact that all versions in the standard range are mild hybrid, so they have a 12-volt mild, and you know, it's super duper mild. It's like when you go and choose the jar of salsa at the shops, there's not even a label to describe how mild this technology is, but it does assist things in stop-start. So when the start-stop system comes into action, so it turns the engine off, it means that there's a little battery that will help assist to get you away a little bit quicker. And it does also mean that it negates a little bit of that hesitation from a standstill. So what about the ride comfort? Well, I'll go over my local bumpy road to see what it's like. And you know, I've spent almost a week in this car already, and I've found that it does do a lot of that. There's a lot of side to side sort of shuffly movement, and it never really rides over bumps as well as you might expect it to. It sort of falls into the lumps and bumps a little bit more than it probably should, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's got big, heavy 20-inch wheels on the sport versions, and they do sink into the bumps a little bit more. But I wouldn't say that it's uncomfortable, it's just not quite as plush as it could be. Again, it's not a brand new vehicle, this is an aging architecture, so I guess you can give it some little bit of allowance in terms of the drive experience. Otherwise, the steering, again, it's certainly not the most involving, dynamic thing to drive, but it does the job for what a luxury SUV should feel like. It changes direction quickly enough. It's fun enough to drive. I don't think it's that much fun, but for someone who's stepping up from something that maybe is a bit older, this is still going to feel like a new car experience, So it goes well, but what about braking? Well, it's got a very, very positive braking response, very bitey as well. Nice solid feel to the pedal, and I like that. And if you're wondering about the safety technology and whether it's annoying in this car, thankfully, it's not. It's very easy to turn off the lane keeping. There's just a little button on the end of one of the stalks here if you don't want that on. And it doesn't have any of those annoying features like driver fatigue camera, so it doesn't read your face. It does have a driver fatigue monitor, but it isn't necessarily interrupting your drive experience. And there's no speed sign recognition either. So for me, it's a very livable SUV in terms of those safety features not being annoying. It's refined though, it's very quiet, there's not much engine noise to speak of, and not too much of the tyre roar that we've come to expect from some of the other Volkswagen Audi group products. You do get a little bit on coarse surfaces at high speeds, but it's not a deal breaker, I don't think. So look, I think that this car does the job. It's adequate at what it's trying to achieve. It is luxurious enough, it's powerful enough, but I think that in this segment, things have shifted, things have moved on, and there are more enthusiastic cars to drive available for similar money, or even less money. So it could be that decides it for you, whether you want something that is a bit more of an enthusiastic car to drive, a bit more sporty, a bit more assertive, or you might just be perfectly fine with the way that this does things, because it does things pretty well, I reckon. Okay, in this part of the video, I'm going to throw a bunch of different numbers up on the screen so you get an idea of the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the different variants in this range. So I'll talk about the most efficient version of the Q5 that you can get. It's the Q5 55 TFSI-E. That's the plug-in hybrid one, and the official combined cycle number for it is 2 litres per 100 Ks. Now, if you've watched any of my other plug-in hybrid reviews, I'll throw a link to the playlist in the description. You'll know that yes, you can achieve that kind of figure if you only drive 100 Ks, because you will have depleted the battery by then, and then you'll be using the petrol engine more often. So it's a bit misleading. It's 2 litres for the first 100 Ks, in theory at least. All right. Up from there, you'll get into the 35 TDI. Now, it's sort of an efficiency-focused powertrain. It does have a really low number. You'll see it on your screen now, and that's because it doesn't have all-wheel drive. It's got less power and torque than the 2-litre diesel in the 40 TDI Quattro, which I'll show you the number for now. It's actually not that much more inefficient, or it doesn't use that much more fuel, I should say, and it's got a fairly decent power bump to help keep it moving, and also it's got all-wheel drive. And then there's this one here, the 45 TFSI Quattro. Now, yes, it does use a fair bit more juice because it's a turbo petrol with a slightly more performance-oriented tune to it. So you'll see the number on your screen now. And if you're wondering what I've seen across my week of testing, across a mix of driving, the sort of stuff that you might do yourself in and out of town, some freeway, highway, urban, daily drop-offs to daycare, that sort of stuff, the number's on the screen now. And I think that that's not too bad. It's not necessarily amazing, but it's not too bad. The Audi Q5 used to have a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, but it expired at the end of 2023. So does that rule it out for you? I don't think it would for me, because it still has a bunch of standard safety technology and gear, things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian detection. There's also a lane keeping assistance feature, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, adaptive cruise control across the range, front and rear parking sensors, a reversing camera, and some good stuff like a safe exit assist feature, so it'll stop you from opening your door into the path of oncoming traffic. And there's a swerve assist feature as well, which is a new technology for this updated 2024 model range. Now, it's also got this thing which is really handy. If you've got your mobile phone in the charging tray and you go to get out of the car, it'll say your mobile phone is still in the vehicle. So I think that's a really nice little convenience feature. And if you spend up to the Sport version, you also get a surround view camera as standard and a semi-autonomous parking system as well. And when it comes to airbag coverage for the Q5, you've got dual front side and full length curtain coverage, as well as rear side airbags as well. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe. Audi Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is on par with the mainstream brands out there and pretty good for a luxury brand. Now, it's also got a 5-year prepaid service plan available for the TDI and TFSI models. The price for it is $3,520 for 5 years and 75,000 kilometres of servicing. So that will work out to around $700 per 12-month 15,000k service. So not necessarily affordable to own, but at least if you do service your car with an Audi workshop, they'll top up your roadside assist every single time. I can certainly see the appeal in the Audi Q5. It does stack up pretty well still for a luxury SUV in this segment, although some of its rivals do shine a little brighter because they are a little bit more glitzy and glammy than this thing is. But tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose the Q5? If you own one already, let me know if you've had any issues with it. I'd love to hear from you. And for me, I'd be choosing the entry-level diesel front-wheel drive. I reckon it'd be a plush commuter. But let me know what you think. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.